Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today we'll be listening to a recording of a Clubhouse room we hosted a couple of weeks ago. So if you are not on Clubhouse, please join. Clubhouse is now available on Android too. No be only Apple people, they run am now. We Android are now allowed. No need for invitation. Join the Free Thinkers Hangout on Clubhouse. The link is in the show notes below. Then please subscribe Apple, Spotify, Google, or any other place you get your podcast. This podcast is available here and there. So let's go on and listen to the Clubhouse discussion we had some weeks ago. Hello, Gooby. So anyone that wants to come up, please come up. Today's topic, we want to talk about secular sexuality. It's basically to talk about our view of sex and sexuality when we're still believers and now that we're unbelievers. How has it changed? A comparison between both, basically. So that is why we are here. That's the aim of this room. So now let me start. So before I pass it on to Mr. Tony. So when the sex come into my head, I think it must have been around. Anyway, I remember we used to watch movies. We see kissing scenes and out of guilt, I don't know. I usually look away with reflexively look away. You know, looking at my parents and them being pastors and all that, like, can't be looking at people kissing, So by the time I entered secondary school, then puberty started kicking in and girls were looking quite interesting. But it was a Christian school, so you cannot, overt sexual gestures were forbidden. You could not experiment as a curious pre-adolescent. I mean, that's age between 10, 11, 12. Question like, what the hell is going on with your body? Why are you feeling this way? You couldn't experiment. Even till I changed school, it was still another Christian school. My parents were just hell-bent on keeping me in that Christian light. So I was in secondary school, and that was how masturbation started. That's why I jammed masturbation, and it was weird because I was like, I was even happy when open bedroom and boys were just rubbing. I was like, why am I feeling like this? Okay, whatever. We just left it at that. So by the time I became 14, I remember one day I was in the bedroom. Okay, I forgot. Before that, by 13, 14, we don't jam pornography. And that was when they were preaching the whole pornography is the devil, pornography is this, So seeing breasts, seeing ash, seeing penetration, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. What was this, man? But I was turned on. I didn't know what being turned on was, but just like, man, okay. But beneath everything I was experiencing, there was still that guilt that, guys, this is a sin. God does not like it. This is a sin. There was just that underlying feeling. But, we are humans. Your urges, you can't control your urges. So you keep on experimenting. So it was still around, I was 17 or 18 before I finally had sex. I think it's 18. It's 18 self, imagine. It was when I was 18 that I finally had sex. And it was strange and wonderful. Like, let me just put it. Basically, I was like, this is different from my hand, though. That is my reaction. Like, this is different from hand. Like, hand and sex are two worlds apart. But there was still the underlying guilt. And at that age, I was already in university, Covenant University. Every small thing, overt sexual gesture. Every small, if you are caught peering, wahala. If you are caught in the corner with a girl, wahala. So there was just this purity culture was just the watchword. Purity culture is everything. Keep yourself holy. The school was just hell bent. Anything sex like this, they take it very seriously, and you can get expelled. So now going, even though yes, I was still doing it, but the guilt was there. Leaving university, I don't know, somehow my guilt started dying because, man, it was sweet, man. It was sweet. The guilt was there, but it was sweet. So over the years, it kept on. I kept having sex, sex outside marriage. So I kept on sinning, but for some weird reasons, my guilt kept reducing. Now, deconverting now, I'm just like, why did I go through all this wahala on top sex? Sex is a natural thing. Sex is very necessary, especially as a human being. You need those endorphins or whatever they used to call it that you get after you climax. Those are it's basically necessary for like there are even days where, as a guy, if you're not being a woman, you just have to masturbate and get that sperm out of your body. You need to get it away. It's not even out of you need to just get that semen out to avoid dangerous sperm buildup. I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, but dangerous sperm buildup can turn to prostate cancer. So those are when I was like, because I remember I've been seeing some old men, they have prostate cancer. They mean, like, I was not like, so if you, by the time you're old now, you can't even get rid of this sperm that's still being produced even at your old age, and it will end up into prostate cancer. Like, I was like, why did God design things like that way? That was still questioning phase, but that one saved it. Then now, moving to sexuality, the whole sexuality. How was that sex? Sexuality is something you don't choose. You are attracted to who you're attracted to. And when we're talking about sexuality, we go to homosexuality. And we always say this, I was very homophobic. Homophobic based on that story of Lot, of God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, hence the word sodomy. So that has already been drummed in my head that homosexuals are terrible people according to God. So those were some of the things. But one thing that happened, I went through what they call a bi-curious stage. Funny, I just remember now, wherein being locked up in school, I had separated us from girls. And I'm like, this feeling I'm getting from girls, I know if you get that from boys. And that's where this is one thing that when people say homosexuality is a choice, it's not a choice. I made that choice to be bi-curious and experiment to see what will happen, but I couldn't get the feeling I was getting when I was with a woman, with someone of the opposite sex. So sexuality is not a choice. That's what I've realized now that I've come out from the Christian mindset. Then it was like everybody's supposed to be heterosexual according to what the Lord says in the Bible. Man, God made him man and woman. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. No, all those bullshit, dumbass Christian puns. All that was drummed in my head. But now looking at the other side, even looking at the whole LGBTQ spectrum, the two people that I am jealous of is the bisexuals and the pansexuals. The bisexuals can have sex with male and female. The pansexuals can have sex with everybody on the spectrum. It's really horrible. That's why I'm jealous. I remember I watched Game of Thrones. I don't know if anyone remembers this guy, this Pedro Pascal, Aubrey Martel, the Viper of whatever. That's why the character was a bisexual. And someone's like, why are you sleeping? It's like, why are you cheating yourself from the enjoyment of life? Like, you need to enjoy everything in life. So that was the first time I was like, so a guy can actually be bisexual. But looking at it now, sexuality is not a choice. It's the way you are. So I immediately, that's what helped me to get rid of my homophobic nature. I know that whatever sexuality you have, it is who you are and it needs to be respected. So I'm done speaking. Over to you, Mr. Tony.
Okay, yeah, nice one. Thank you for your comments and your honesty. And I think, sexuality is one thing that I feel like the religious world has, for lack of a better, description, I would use the word maybe like dressed up, right? Like they've glorified this sexuality thing in such a way that, you barely can be in the middle of the road when it comes to sexuality as a religious person, you, there has to be one emotion or the other because, you're either slut shamed or, there's this homophobic thing that is with them or this or that. Like it's a lot, right? And sometimes we wonder why the Catholic Church ranks as, top 5 in organizations leading in pedophilia, even though they swear to, never having sex, I think it's the priest or the fathers or what have you. Anyways, personally, I deconverted, that would be maybe like 2019. So I'm still pretty much young in the atheist faith. But if you want to call it that.
I just deconverted last year.
Anyway. Oh, really? What, you?
Yeah.
Oh, you just deconverted last year?
Yes. It's a year this month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Crazy. Anyways, so mine was 2019, and I would say the way I look at sex now, it's like taking a nap, right? It's like, it's like you're tired and you feel sleepy and you just need to go to bed, right? Why force yourself to not go to bed? I mean, it's as human beings that we are, let's just call it what it is. We are animals, right? What other animals are doing, we need to do it. Do we need to apply some form of discretion, like, shall apply sense? Do you get? Yeah, we do, because, there's a reason why, we regard ourselves with a higher IQ. So but that doesn't mean that we need to see sex as, as something that is, forbidden and all of that. Anyways, prior to when I became an atheist, when I was a Christian, I remember the first time I had sex, it was, I think 2013. Yeah, I was 2013. And, so she was what you would call, what guys in school would call, the Olosho of the class, you get. So, even though looking back, that was awfully wrong, you get. Like, who are we to judge how anyone chooses to express themselves sexually, you get. Even at the end of the day, we all have libidos in different measures. I can't speak in depth to the science of that, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. But then, I had sex with her, and I'm not gonna lie, man, it was crazy. It was mad fun. But you know how, like, in the moment, like, what you are doing is, like, this thing doesn't feel right, but then it feels right. You get, like, it doesn't feel right because, I am sinning and God isn't happy, but then I feel good. So it doesn't feel right, but then it feels right. So I remember immediately after, we were done, and I put my clothes back on. You know how we guys are now after we've, like, we are done and dusted. It's like our eyes are finally open. So I was like, oh my days. Like, I was like, damn, like, what have I just done? Like, for real? Like, is this me? I'm not even married to her. Like, I'm not even thinking about marriage now. Like, what is all this? Like, I just fornicated. Which, right now, anytime I want to have sex these days, what I say is, I want to fornicate. But that's just by the side. But then, like, I was like, bro, I just fornicated. Like, what is this? Like, man, like, what if I have AIDS now? Even though I strapped up. But then I was like, what if I have, the AIDS, or what if I have this? What if I have that? I was like, damn, like, goddamn, like, man, I remember the next Sunday, like, I was the first person at the altar. I can never forget that Sunday. I can't remember the exact date, but I know that I was the first at the altar. And cause, I don't know how you guys churches do, but then, like, church I would go to, there would be like, the church I was going to, there was like, you could have like a 30 to 40 minutes prayer session. You don't have to go to the altar per se. You could just stay in your seats, but it's like a quiet time, between you and God before the service actually starts. Before the door was open, I was already at church, I was waiting for the doors to get open, and immediately got open. I ran to the altar, just knelt down. I wasn't crying, weeping, but I was like, damn, like, my God, this one I've done is more than the others, so man, you need to help me. So, but then, it wasn't that easy, because you know how like sex is kind of like, especially when you have great sex, right? It's kind of like, once you don't, it's not like a door that you just open, with a key. It's a door you break down and it's open for life. Maybe until you get old, I don't know how it's going to feel when you get to. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how sex is, right? It's like, man, like, it's not easy. I don't know how it is for those that don't have great sex, right? Maybe like you're a girl, you probably, your first time was probably painful. So I can't really speak to that. But as a guy, me personally, like, it felt like, this door is broken. We need to talk to God about it. But, you know how after that Sunday, you are like almost back to factory setting. So that was how it felt. And it was like, man, like after seeing that same spec that I had sex with, like after seeing that same replica on the streets, like everywhere I went, I was like, damn, man, I need to do this shit again. So it was a mind torturing experience back then. And each time I went through that, each time I had sex, it was always like, whoa, like, okay, let me make it quick now. So, but now, we didn't knock for free now. We know the reason now. We just stay. we just stroll in and stroll out. You get, like, obviously with sense, cause, nobody's trying to get, STDs and shit. But then, like, it is what it is, man. Like, thank you. I think I'm done.
It is what it is. Thanks, Tony. All right. So, Eloise, you want to add to the conversation?
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Good evening.
Fine. Afternoon where I am,
okay.
But hello.
Right.
Either way. Well, I grew up in an ultra-religious household as well. My dad is a church elder and he has been since like 2003. So, yeah, it was that rigid. So, my parents gave us the typical Christian sex ed. You have sex, you get pregnant, you sin against God, STIs, and you go to hell, right? That was practically the sex education, and I grew up with my cousins, most of whom were significantly older than I was. But somehow, with the sex education that my parents gave us, a lot of my cousins got pregnant and ended up aborting them. I had cousins who got pregnant out of wedlock and had the kids. So, as you very well know, the sex ed was absolutely useless. So my mom focused like on me and my older sister, who is just like 5 years older than I am. So she gave us the same, she doubled down on it, and with me specifically, she did this thing where she made me promise God that I wasn't going to have sex till I was married. And I genuinely did it, and I thought it was right. And before she made me make that promise or whatever, I had been molested by my cousin. and I was blamed for it, to, summarize the whole story. So I felt guilty for, as a result of that. I genuinely thought I caused it, you understand? So when she came with that, promise God that you won't do that, I was like, fine. I took it wholeheartedly, and I actually said I wasn't going to do it. So seeing as I was exposed to sex at a very young age in a wrong way, obviously, me being a human being, it popped in my head. I used to think about it. I had very vague knowledge about it, and even knowledge I had was questionable, so I suppressed it. And I thought sex to be this nasty thing, like so long as you're not married, you have no business engaging in it whatsoever. So I kept up with that whole campaign of no sex until I married, no sex until I married. So when I finished secondary school, I moved to Canada for my education, my further education in 2018, and it wasn't up to a year I lived in Canada. I was already having sex. So again, coming out to God down the drain. Anyway, when I first started having sex. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just reacting. Continue, sorry.
Oh, all right. So when I first started having sex, I felt very guilty, and I had certain personal issues then, and I genuinely thought it was because I was having sex. You understand? So, I was just riddled with guilt, you understand? And then shortly after that, I started deconverting because I had issues, you understand, in my life, and again started thinking about certain things, and then I started asking questions. But even after I started deconverting, I was still having, questionable thoughts about sex. I still thought I was scum of the earth for having sex. I enjoyed it, you understand, but just that little voice in your head, you understand? And I was so scared, like I couldn't even talk to any adult in my family about it because I did not know the reaction I was going to get. The only adult I could even open up to about my sex life was my older brother's wife. And I was so happy she didn't even judge me, because when she asked me for like, okay, are you having sex? And then I said yes, and I was so scared. And she was like, okay, no big deal. I was like, finally, someone I can talk to, you understand? But with regards to my parents, I cannot have that conversation with them. But that aside, looking at the sexuality side of it, which is like the LGBTQ, like you said, I was very homophobic as well. Again, growing up in a very Christian household, and then how the churches are in Nigeria and the culture is, it's largely homophobic. So I grew up homophobic. I had very terrible views about gay people that right now I am very ashamed of. But that thing where people say, the ones who are the harshest critics tend to be the ones who are actually more like the people that they critique. Because there were times I discovered I wasn't really straight. But I was like, that's the devil. Like when I was younger, I was like, that's the devil. God forbid, it can't be me. But now, I'm coming to terms with my attractions and what I like, and now I see sex as just sex. And while I understand it means different things for different people, you understand, but it's not anything I feel they need to shame anyone about, or sexuality is not something I used to judge people, you understand. Now I fully understand now that there is nothing unnatural or evil or bad about it, that it's just one part of your human identity. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Really appreciate that. Really, your story is really touching. Thanks for sharing. Gubi, how far?
How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Nice to finally get a chance to speak to you. Good evening to everyone. I reached out because I've been an atheist for a while. I just didn't think that Nigeria had developed to the point so that we would have similar minds. So I have actually been an atheist for about 13 years.
Wow.
I had one or two challenges with religion from when I was young. So from when I was even in secondary school, junior secondary school, I would always say to my mom, my senior uncles, I'm like, this story that you're telling me, I'm not buying one or two things. There's a number of holes here and here. This doesn't add up. And the responses I was getting, I don't think were adequate by any stretch of the imagination. So, I struggled, and I think I just sat on the fence for a while, and then eventually, the other one is the guy. I told him, please just be safe. We hear a lot of things and all that. So, I just want you to be safe. So I would also like to mention that, I think the family dynamic is also, I think it also plays a big role. So my mom is, I wouldn't say she's like typical Nigerian. She's very, very exposed, very, very ajabotai and everything. So I think she tends to live in the real world. So she knew she had two sons, and she knew, look, I know guys, and this is how guys behave. I'm not going to deceive myself. So when we were like 14, she sat us down and we had the conversation. Frank, straight up, and she explained the whole thing to us. And my mom is the first person in my life that gave me condoms, because she knew, look, this religion thing, it's not really going to you. I mean, I have a friend, he's an old man now, he's over 40. I've known him for a while, and he has never had sex. And he said because he promised God that he wasn't going to have sex. And I'm just looking at him, I'm like, okay, so you haven't completely penetrated, but you've done everything else. So are you deceiving me, or are you deceiving yourself? But I also don't want to be the guy that now takes him, quote unquote, away from, his promise, and all that. And then I would also like to end by saying, I think it was Eloise that mentioned, that she was questioning, her straightness. I think to some degree, I think all of us are a little bit gay. I think I was reading up on something like that. I think, varying percentages, but there's a little bit, in all of us. I don't know what our thoughts are on what I've said, but I think I'll just end it here. Thanks very much.
Thanks for sharing, bro. Really appreciate that. So, let me see. Tumbi, you're next. Are you there? Tumbi, can you hear me? Okay, let's move to Adetunji. Once Tumbi is ready. Adetunji, how far? Wait, can anybody hear me like this?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
I was afraid. So it seems that Adetunji and Tumbi are not with us for now. So, let's continue the conversation. So going back to looking at sex and sexuality from my own side, there's some prejudice I used to have. Prejudice towards sex workers. The whole how do I put it now? Calling Olusha, even that word prostitute is heavy for me now, because the scales from my eyes are falling. Like, these are human beings and they are here for their own choice, their own reasons, whatever. I am in no capacity to judge. In fact, like, you are busy there judging them. You are the one also going there to patronize them. So who the hell are you? That's what I'm saying to my former self right now. I'm like, ooh, like, Ogbeni, In fact, maybe I think you're even worse than them because you are coming here to pay for some, like, So looking back and think for that, all I call is sex workers. And sex workers come in different forms. There's that word, I don't know if there's a word to call it because I don't feel comfortable saying the word prostitute. It has an insultive connotation. But basically, there's a range of people that work in the sex work industry. And what I always refer to them is sex workers. The word prostitute is insultive in my own head. I don't know if it really is, but I think it actually is. It has been bastardized if it's not actually, but that mentality has had to just go because these are human beings and you need to respect people's decisions. Those are the biases and man, religion really fucks me, man. Looking back, religion really, really fucks me. So now, Tumbi just sent me a message now. I said, I muted him. Oh. Okay, wait, Tumbi, can you blink your mic? You can't unmute yourself. Okay, I'll move you back to the audience, then you raise your, okay. All right.
Okay.
All right, bro.
So, hello everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
And anyone? Okay. All right. Good evening, guys. So I joined the room late, and at least from the title, I can just see is what secular sexuality, I guess. So I heard a couple of guys talking about their sexual experiences, but I'm hearing a lot of LGBTQ kind of. So it's basically trying to say, are we talking about homosexuality or sexuality in general, or what, or why people are prejudiced against homosexuality?
Sexuality in general. Your own experience.
Okay, so are we supposed to like narrate?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Your thoughts,
okay.
Your view on sex when you were still a believer, and in comparison to your views now that you are on the other side.
Okay. So interesting. Well, to be fair, we've had personal discussions. I've always been an open-minded person. So, yeah, I kind of was homophobic. We're Nigerian, we're predominantly of the Abrahamic faiths and everything. So that was there. But when guys used to tease guys, like, because I'd met gay people even before like secondary school. So my earliest memory was probably an older cousin or uncle, one of these distant people that they used to make fun of in the house. But again, it was Lagos. It was quite egalitarian. So people were just like, yeah, this, yeah, that, yeah, that. They will make fun of him, but nobody really cared in the end. You still come for family functions. They'll say, this one is lost to the world. This one is that. You hear all those kind of snide comments, which in retrospect now, they are kind of homophobic and they are not appropriate. But we're talking of early 90s. This awakening hadn't happened. So it was normal, but it was more casual than malicious, at least. So that was my first experience with someone that identified as homosexual. Well, going on to, secondary school, I went to a mixed school. So, yeah, we had incidences here and there of guys in compromising situations, doing this, doing that, touching each other weirdly and everything. Guys used to shame them, guys used to mock them, but there was never a case where they were actually beaten, even though they were caught. So I kind of had like this kind of egalitarian background. So that actually shaped my perspective. I used to yab guys. We used to say homophobic slurs. Oh yeah, fag, yeah, fairy, this, that. You understand? Well, I think the experience that really woke me up was when I had a friend of my brother's, my younger brother, who was effeminate, but he wasn't gay. Like, this guy will collect your girlfriend, but he will cook better than her. He will, to use the stereotypical gender roles and everything. His afang was the bomb, everything. But if you leave him with your babe, go collect him. But he was very effeminate. He was raised by his mom. His dad was absent and everything. So that was weird to experience. So that was like the weirdest experience I've had with the spectrum of sexuality. But generally speaking, before I deconverted, I was literally open-minded. I used to read a lot, so I was exposed to, US Weekly, Reader's Digest, and you see all these things flash there and everything. So I wasn't homophobic per se. I was never bi-curious, so to speak. I always knew that it was women for me, but I generally wasn't someone that would castigate you because you're gay or you're bi. You understand? And then I never knew that guys could be bi like that. And like you said, when you saw Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones, it kind of shocked me because I always thought it was always chicks. Hearing from guys that watching porn sometimes, you never see like bi guys. So that's basically what it was. Deconverting had a factual back into some inclinations I already had before I deconverted. So that's basically it for me.
All right, nice one. I have one question. I think give us your perspective on your heterosexuality, how you viewed it back in the day, and how you view it now.
Well, again, I was open-minded. So I didn't have time for that bullshit that I'm saying. I said, fuck this shit, man. I did not waste a second. And I started pretty early. Like, I don't want to say how early because guys are going to judge people. Man. I started doing shit pretty early. You know what I mean? I'm just messing around. But yeah, pretty early. Like, I know in primary school, I'd been touched inappropriately and vice versa. I remember, funny story. This Disney movie, Aladdin. So I know I went to one of my friend's house. They were mostly all girls, very fine girls. I'd seen the video before. So when I was watching it, I told her, let's make a deal. Like when Aladdin kisses Jasmine, whenever he kisses Jasmine, I'll kiss you. I'd already seen it like 2 times. So I was already prepared for when the action was going to go down. So I was that kind of sly guy at that point in time. So yeah, we did that. It was fun. But religion never stopped me because I've always been like open-minded. So I never for once felt, this is bad. Yes, I did, but it wasn't, let's say 80% of the time I was good with it. So I was always sexually expressive, like in that way. So always heterosexual, not hardly homosexual, hardly. But there was a speaker, I think it was Gubi or so. I kind of agree with him. He's like, we're all a bit gay. Yes, there's a spectrum, so you understand. So I kind of agree with that. I fuck with that, and I think that was smart.
Fantastic.
Hello.
We there. You don't feel
okay? Anyways. Yeah, I'm done. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers it very well, very well. All right, Tony, you are flashing. You want to say something?
Yeah, just to add 1 or 2 things. I remember the first time I ever watched porn. Right, first time ever that I watched porn was on my mom's laptop, and then and then. That was I was really young. I was really, really young. I can't even remember if it was X videos or it was X videos right now is like the go-to porn site, right? But then I can't remember if that was the one I watched at the time, but I know I did watch porn. And then I didn't clear the history.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, that's so much.
So I didn't clear the history, I swear, bro. So I didn't clear the history, and then the pastor in my parents' church, he's very, I say my parents' church, well, that was my former church. So the pastor in that church, the people have a way of like sucking his dick. Get what I'm trying to say? Like, they have this way of like, worshiping him and, like, it's sucking his dick, literally. I swear, like, literally. So, the very next day or so, I think they called him, they told him that almost, this boy is watching porn and this and that and that and this. So, I think either the next Sunday or 2 Sundays later, I think I was like 13 or 14 years at the time. The next Sunday or 2 days later, I was sleeping in church and, the pastor kind of has like a personal connection with my family, right? So I was like dozing in church and like, he just shouted from the pulpit, like, wake Ezra up, wake him up. So, and then the guy next to me taps me. That church, they are really, really fundamentalist. Like they are not your up and coming liberal kind of church. They are very fundamentalist. So this guy nudges me and then I wake up and he's like, you still go to those sites, right? You still go to those sites. You need to stay awake so you won't go to those sites anymore.
On the PA.
I feel like I almost sank in my chair. I was like, damn, bro, like, what is this? Like, I'm like, what is, and you know how they do it now? Like, he won't be saying, he didn't say it like coming from a place of, I was told by your parents. It's like, I was told by God. You get me? I'm like, okay, like, I know obviously my people told you, but you obviously skipped that part and you're trying to feel as though you are Moses. But do you? But I was so embarrassed. Like, I think for the entire month, I was so embarrassed. Anyways, that aside, that was one experience that I would never forget. And then speaking on the homophobic thing, right? I'd say this, right? When it comes to homosexuality, back then I was very particular about it because this is Christianity that even already frowns at you having straight sex, but not in the right way, right? So you would even see some churches that are like against you having sex doggy style, like it's like, or like giving head. You get like, they just, I swear to you, like there are some churches that there are some Christian churches that would be like, bro, like you need to, don't go so freaky, right? Mm-hmm. So for you to transition from that all the way up to homosexuality is like is a huge leap, right? So I was very like all you had to do was just make one step as a guy in a feminine way. I'm like, whoa, suspect. So I was very, I was very particular about them. But now I would say this, like, I think, being an atheist helps you to not be judgmental. It really does like change your perspective when it comes to like judging people and understanding where they're coming from. Like you even being open-minded to wanting to learn, right? So that's one thing I would credit to, atheism. And right now, no doubt, there are some times when like, I see a guy take 3 steps, and maybe he comes across as feminine. I'm like, but I instantly pinch myself, and like, man, that's life, man. Like, that's his thing. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing, man. And he should be free to do as he pleases. Because at the end of the day, one day we are all going to die. What kind of life would you want to live? The life that, would be so limited. Like, this is how I look at life these days, right? So, life has been in existence for billions of years, right? Billions of years. And you and I have like maximum of like 100 years if you're lucky, right? And so all you have is just 100 in a billion. And why would you want to put a cap on that 100 years? Like, it's like a gift, right? It's like a gift. Like, why would you want to limit yourself? Like, live, like, do you, as long as you're not hurting the next person, man, be you. If what turns you on is sucking other guys' toes and they are consent to it, my guy, do it, because one day you will not have that opportunity anymore. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
So that's how I feel right now, and I think so far it's been an amazing experience, an amazing experience. I think before I die, I'm going to be wealthy. I hope to be wealthy, right?
Yeah, business way.
I think being atheist would probably be the second best thing that would ever have happened to me in my life. So I don't know why I added that part.
What's the first? You want to do I'm a boss more?
Oh no, that's the wealthy part. Okay. The wealthy part is the first. That's why I said like I would be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice one.
Yeah, so thanks.
Nice one, bro. Yeah, I'm thinking about that part of catching yourself when you are having those biases. You're just like, oh God, you shut up. What's your problem? You are there basically knocking yourself, knocking yourself on the head, going through that process, because it's not a one-off thing where you just flip the switch off, or flip the switch of your homophobia. You have to actively catch yourself, because it has been ingrained over years. Like me now, just 1 year. So you have to get rid of that thing in process. You have to get a guy. You have to keep reminding yourself, like, Ogbeni, this is not you. Shut the fuck up. Those are the ways to get rid of that thing over and over again. Because the homophobia has been reinforced for over years, at least my own life, over 20-something years. So one has to work hard at killing that thing. Because, dude, what's your basis of judging somebody? Nobody is perfect, so shut the fuck up. That's what I tell to my nigga, shut the fuck up. So anyone wants to add anything? Anyone wants to speak? Is Adetunji back online? Anybody? I cannot come here and be doing pastor. Okay, Gubi, you want to go?
Okay, let me just mention this. I think I also find it a bit ridiculous that the natural that we see, I think human beings and I think dolphins are the only creatures that have sex for fun. I think other animals.
Like you're actually not clear at all. Like even the first time you spoke, you weren't clear.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. So I was saying that I think it's a bit weird that religion, as it were, tends to demonize the whole concept of sex, even though it is a perfectly natural urge. If you look throughout the animal kingdom, I think it's only human beings and dolphins that have sex for fun. But I think other animals, it's more of when the female is on heat, and so it's for procreation. But for man, I think all of us have mentioned when we hit puberty and, we're all beginning to have those urges. We're having these urges and then you're now saying, don't do anything about them. I'm very sorry. Absolutely not. Then what is the point? And let's not forget, sex is one of the strongest urges. If we look around the world, people that have had sex taken away from them, they have always shown you through their actions that they don't accept it. Even the so-called religious leaders that are supposed to be celibate, we always hear of what they get up to, So it's not something that is so easy, and yet they are creating these rules around regulating what people do in the privacy of their bedrooms. I think it's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Nice one, bro. Nice one. So who else? Anyone wants to contribute? All right, Tony.
Yeah, one last thing. I was going to talk about, prostitution that you spoke on.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I 101% get your point, right? Because the word prostitutes has really, really been demonized. The word, Olosho, Ashewo, like, we've really, like, demonized that word, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's okay to want to change it to a sex worker, because at the end of the day, man, it's really just a service. It's just like every other
service,
job,
man.
just like every other service. Yeah, it's just like every other service. It's like getting a haircut, right? Sometimes you could go to a barber shop and get a haircut. It could be a nice haircut. It could be a bad haircut.
Yeah.
It could be, you could get bumps, you could get cuts along the way. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really just what it is at the end of the day. That's really just what it is at the end of the day. But like, we've really, really demonized it, and I feel bad for. And besides the I feel bad point, I'm really happy for a lot of sex workers that really own the tag, the prostitute tag. Like, they own it. Like, you'll be surprised to see how, like, they're not ashamed of it. You get, like, they could be deep down, I don't know, but you get, but like, on face value, they give, like, oh my guy, give me my money. Like, it is my money. Yes, not my work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really salute those kind of people, right? And to be honest, like, we sex workers are really saving the world. Like, they actually do so much more good than I swear, bro. I swear. So that's just all I have to say, to go behind the point on the prostitution.
All right, no, thanks for that, bro. Picking back, okay, Tumbi, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, just want to disagree with Tony, basically. Not disagree, Sha, but in some sense, okay, we're all deconverted, free thinkers and everything, but you guys have to understand one thing. This line of thinking is fairly new if you look at how much human civilization has existed from time being recorded and everything. So when we say, like, oh, sex is just a service and sex workers is just like getting a haircut, and I tend to disagree with that, simply because of something called evolutionary psychology. Okay. So we forget how we started as human beings. We started in...
What was that phrase? Could you repeat it? I didn't get that.
What part didn't you get? Let me see where I started from. Okay, basically what I said was it started evolutionary psychology.
Okay.
Like how we came to think, how we came to function, how we are now. How did we get to this point? Where did we start from? So basically, people have died, we've procreated and everything. So there are some genes, there are some ways of thinking that have been passed down from generations that even delineate our gender roles as people. So even something as core to our existence as gender roles that I see a lot of free thinkers trying to like discard that. They are interchangeable most times, but to be honest, the way civilization has grown, we can't just discard like over 10,000 years of evolutionary psychology that is predicated on those roles just because we're free. We can't just discard it. We have to find ways around it. We have to find, okay, these are the harmful, just like cultures, they are regressive parts of culture. Like the ageism culture we have in Nigeria, they're regressive parts. So we need to do away with those parts. Killing twins and all that. But there's still gray areas that we as free thinkers tend to try and, color over with the proverbial rainbow brush. But back to what I was saying. So what I was trying to say was, it's something like sex. I think Ranting said something earlier when I just joined the room that when you have sex, it releases oxytocin and serotonin and all that. So basically, all these things, what they do is they make you bond with your sexual partner. So it is not, and then Gobi said something that, okay, or no, I think it was you, Tony, that said it, that even though we're free to have as much sex as we want, we have to apply sense to this thing. So you have to understand what you're doing. You do something to your body when you have this X many sexual partners. I mean, there's no cap. You're free to, and say that, oh, you're going to ignore the science behind that. But remember, free thinking is about scientific inquiry. If you measure the brain's activity, cortisol levels, serotonin, oxytocin levels, after sexual activity, you find that these hormones or these secretions are present. So you're not infinitely supposed to be secreting this thing all the time. It's just like how drug users get hooked on chasing the dragon. When you take heroin or drugs, some of these chemicals are secreted. So your pleasure centers are stimulated. And then when they are overstimulated too often, then the pleasure you gain from it becomes dulled. And then you keep chasing the dragon. That's why you get high. That's why you're a crackhead. You're always chasing that high. You're always chasing, and there's never going to be like the first high. So scientists have realized that having sex and taking drugs, there's similar secretions that happen. So it's not something that you're supposed to do wantonly without control and everything. Not like you cannot be a sex worker, but aside from the chemical bits and the scientific bits, culturally speaking, we descended from agrarian societies, very close-knit tribes. I mean, human beings are still tribal. We still have that part of our evolutionary psychology quite ingrained in us. You understand? So you're living in communities, a tribe, maybe 150, 200 people. Everybody knows everybody. So that's where the term slut shaming came from. When is usually a woman. It's usually a woman because of purity culture. And I mean, religion even, I mean, morality and purity culture even predates organized religion in human psychology. So it was always against the women. I think I have a theory about that. Is because the drive to have sex, the libido, the testosterone is the main driver of sex. You understand? And it's mostly with men. So we feel sort of handicapped. So men slut shame women for using their handicap against them. That's just my theory. It's not just a theory, you understand? So I'm not saying it's right, but it is what it is. So there's all those issues of, okay, being in a tribe, you know everybody. Obviously, we've evolved from that. We've evolved through the industrial age. Now we're in the information age. And there are apps like Tinder, Bumble. You can meet so many people. But you have to understand that these bits of evolutionary psychology have been passed down from generations. So the guys that survived basically had this mental coding with them. And they still exist today. And they are still going to exist tomorrow. So that's why we have issues where people are looking at it like, oh, sex work is not work. And it is, honestly. I watched one Netflix Nigerian movie, and the babe, she was a prostitute, so to speak. But she was a great actress. And she always kept on saying one thing: pay me my money or I shall they collect tax. And that thing stuck with me. It was very funny. You understand? So I'm not saying you're totally wrong, but I'm just saying that, okay, can we just let me play devil's advocate a bit? And that's what I wanted to do. So I'm done.
Listen, yeah, moderation is very key. Very key. Yeah, I saw Eloise, you wanted to respond, or no, Adetunji, you are the one next. I just want to be sure.
Just let Adetunji go first.
Okay, all right. Adetunji.
Because
Okay, hi guys. Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, so I just came in. I've been here since, but I just got in. But I caught the end of what I don't know his name, William said, and I don't know. I don't know the full context of which he said, but I think it was about sex work. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, I was talking about how.
Yeah. I think I got the picture of how. Okay, so basically, why I came up was because when you said evolutionary psychology and you are trying to when I are trying to link it with morality, I find issue with it because it's not like we don't.
Adetunji?
Oh, okay. I thought it was just me that lost
you. I've lost you. Are you there?
Oh, he's muted now, so I don't think he's there.
Elois. Okay, are you back? Are you Sunji? Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Okay, so I was saying basically that we don't get ethics from biology. Biology and psychology and evolutionary psychology, they are descriptors of what is like what is. They don't prescribe how we organize our society. So you could be right to say that our society evolved XYZ, so it doesn't follow that we should do XYZ. You have to have an odd statement in between your argument, and you didn't provide any of that. So for me, I think what you are saying doesn't follow from even evolutionary psychology, but I do not want to even get into that. But per se, your argument doesn't follow because you are trying to answer an is with an odd, and it just doesn't work. So just that's what I wanted to say. I would come in when I'm a bit settled.
Okay. You want to respond, Tumbi?
I think Elois wanted to say something first. I'll take his point. I'll speak first.
It was more or less what Adetunji just said, you understand? So we've more or less shared the same logic, so I'll just be repeating what he said. So I'll just wait for William to reply if he has anything to say.
Okay.
Sorry, could I say something to what can I add it to just before William gives his take?
Okay, all right, keep it going.
Okay, so I understand where Williams was coming from, but what he said was, as you are, having sex, shall have sex with sense. I think that was the underlining point he was trying to make. It's like, as you are going to the barber shop, you shall go with sense. You could take your own clipper. It's like going with your own condom, right? Or it's like making sure the blades are sterilized, right? So I understand what he's saying, but where I do not agree is pretty much what Adetunji was just saying, and that was evolutionary psychology. Yes, these things have been hammered into our heads for, say, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, but I do not think that in itself is validity for anything. If anything, we need to scrutinize those thousands of years of culture to really know whether or not they were right or not. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but that's my take. That's what I understand from what Williams was saying.
Okay, all right. So can I respond now?
Over to me now. Okay, so from what Adetunji said, he says I didn't have a statement qualifying. It was like, morality doesn't stem from biology. Well, I am sorry if I came across that way, but that's not what I meant. I meant morality stemming from the society, basically, like we're social animals. So when I talked about the term slut shaming, I spoke to tribes, basically people of 150, 250, a very small population living together where everybody knows each other. So the morality guardian and purity culture came from the social consequences of a woman, so to speak, being promiscuous within the same tribe. You understand? I mean, it's just something like incest. Okay, incest is a bad example because it's informed by biology. But I hope he now understands what I meant. I didn't mean that the morality comes from evolutionary psychology, even though I might have come across like that. It was mistaken. I meant that, okay, we're all social animals. I know as a guy in this tribe, you slept with him, and remember that at that point in time, most procreation was for, you're getting into a union and everything. So I'm just trying to point out that this may be the reason why people frown on this thing you're talking about. That was one point. Now to the second point, Tony just spoke and said that like paying for sex, doing it with sense, using a condom is like barbing your hair and everything. But the thing is that I think there is a false equivalence argument, because barbing your hair however style you want has less consequences than you having multiple sexual partners. So in this day and age, I'm just saying that you are free to take any action you want. But as human beings, as competitive beings in a social space, there are consequences for that. So the consequences may be unfair, they are wrong, but it is what it is. So I'm just saying that, that's the point I'm trying to make, that people put more consequences on things like having multiple sexual partners, maybe because of evolutionary psychology in the kind of communities we lived in before. I don't know whether Adetunji can speak to that. He seems to be very knowledgeable about it, but this is something I read bits and pieces of information in different places, and I pieced together a theory. And I did give that caveat that it's not fact, it's not scientific fact, but I'm just drawing from scientific studies about, someone else said, we didn't know thousands of years of how these communities existed. There's written history about, the Roman Empire, the Greeks, even before that, the Spartans, the city-states and everything. There are recorded histories of their interactions, the social orders that existed intra and intersexually, and even with their slaves and everything. So even predating that, the Egyptian Empire, the Assyrians, Hittites, you get the point. There's recorded history about how people lived and interacted with each other. So what I read showed like a repeating pattern about some things were repeated over the years, tens of thousands of years. Or some, like I said, culture, some part of culture is regressive, and it was basically jettisoned. So those were the two central points I was trying to make. So anybody else can respond. Thank you, guys.
Okay, sorry. Let me just quickly go. So the reason why it is like extremely dangerous to get any form of ethics or normative values from something like evolution is because evolution, like our understanding of evolution itself, is limited. 1, 2. What we do understand about evolution seems to point to the fact that evolution doesn't really care about values or morals, or like if like for example, there is a value in a society that would allow the society to thrive, very well, the society will thrive. But if there is a value in the society that is actually like that causes harm, but the harm is not enough to bridge the ability to reproduce, then people will that harmful thing will be passed on for generations to generations. So what Tony said about evaluating.
Can you give an example of such harmful things? Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, I don't really understand.
Okay, an example is in one of his blog posts, Sam Harris was people have misquoted him, but what he makes a case that rape is evolutionary, like has evolutionary advantage. Trigger warning. I'm sorry because I didn't give the trigger warning before I said that.
Speaking as a scientist only, don't worry.
What do you say?
You're speaking strictly as a scientist, so
yes, so
I understand.
Yeah, but I have to. So basically, if there is, if there are, and we do, I don't know if the animals do give consent, but we do see animals being forcefully impregnated. But in context of our own human societies, it makes sense that if something like rape, if we allowed such a thing to, if we allowed evolution to take its course, and we say, okay, because rape can lead to reproduction, let's continue. We kind of understand now that, and I think we did then, but that rape is wrong because it causes harm. So I think if you want to frame an argument from evolution, you have to say, okay, this thing causes harm, this thing doesn't cause harm. That's how I approach the topic of getting values anyway. So, and when you mentioned having written history, like we do have written history for like maybe 10,000 years ago, but we have ancient foragers, we have ancient hunter-gatherers that have existed long before that, like 100,000 years ago. And even the written history we do have, we see that people had sex like crazy. And that is even the point. Like, people had sex with multiple partners. People had sex with multiple genders. Like, it was just a free for all. So basically, if you say we should look at our history is full of sex. Okay, let's look to our living, existing cousins, the bonobos or the chimpanzees. These animals have sex like shaking. Basically, that's what sex is in their culture. Like the bonobos, for example, they have sex for settle fights. They have sex to settle fights, basically. So, like, and that is an example of evolutionary, something that has evolutionary advantage. So, personally, I don't think the argument follows, if you get what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, I think there was a central point you missed. I said the morality and slut shaming and all that came from our interactions as human beings. I mean, we're intelligible animals.
But like that is itself a social construct, and if something is a social construct, it means that it could be changed. And if we do see that this thing is wrong, we have the moral obligation to change it. Don't you think that?
Yeah, so that was my point. So that's why I was trying to say that, this is why it may be frowned upon, not that it should be frowned upon. Do you understand? I was just giving do you understand? It may be frowned upon.
It may be frowned upon, yes, but that doesn't mean that we should form our values based on the fact that something can be frowned upon. Like, there are several things that are frowned upon in society, but we do see that they do not have any harmful effects. So I think basically we can continue the conversation like that.
Well, okay.
Basically, knock with sense. I feel you. I really enjoy the back and forth. Yeah, nice one. So, anyone else wants to add something? Who's anyone in the audience like to join us on the stage? Or everybody wants to just be on looking.
Okay, so I don't think
okay, yeah. Are you ready? Okay, are you ready for you to share your own perspective, right? Are you ready now?
Yeah. So yes.
Okay. So what we started with is giving us your perspective on sex and sexuality when you were a believer, and in comparison to now that you are an unbeliever. So, go.
I'm an unbeliever. I'm not an unbeliever.
Yeah, you are saved in Jesus.
I'm purely virgin. So, personally, like, when I was a believer, that's for about 20 years. I'm 24 now, so I deconverted 2 years ago. When I was a believer, I basically took all the stuff seriously. Like, don't do this, don't do that, blah, 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 don't touch a woman, or else you would, whatever. And I didn't have sex till I deconverted, really. So, a year ago. But my understanding of sex is basically like, sex is part of our history. It's part of our cultural history. It's part of our evolutionary history, and there are risks associated with having sex, definitely. And it's more skewed to the women in our society because reproductive rights are being denied several women. So that's just one aspect of the whole sex debacle. But like, sex should be enjoyed. Sex should be enjoyed, and that I think, for me personally, I think that's one of the more, like, if not the most insidious, one of the most insidious parts of Christianity, and I would say mainstream Christianity or evangelical Christianity or mainstream Christianity. Basically, like, the purity culture in Christianity is one of the most harmful, teachings in Christianity, because they took, and I want to study why it is, because it is like sex is also taboo in some other cultures, but I want to understand why Christianity is that way. But like it took something that is perfectly natural in our society and turned it to taboo, and it doesn't even make sense because there are studies that show that even Christians that get married do have shameful feelings about sex after they are married. So for me, it just creates sort of like a crazy scenario. Even the people that are telling you that you shouldn't have sex, Paul and the current popes, I don't know, maybe they died as virgins, I don't know, but like, at least the type of people I should be listening to about advice about my own sexuality. Like, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. So for me, I say Christianity, Islam, and all the religions that prohibit against sex, they may have had good reasons. I'm not going to say good reasons, but they might have had rational reasons at the time. But for this, like for this dispensation we live in, it doesn't make sense for me to be living my life based on the words of some rambling goat header in the 7th century. Like that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to be living my life based on the ramblings of some probably schizophrenic idiot that was just writing rubbish, telling people that you should not touch a woman. So for me, I find it very annoying, and it's one of the parts of Christianity that I hate the most. Even Islam, but Christianity, because if you know anything about evangelical Christianity, it's like one of the hallmarks of it is saying that you should not do this, you should not do that, you should take purity pledges, blah 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 blah. Sorry, I'm cooking. So, and especially, and how they make you feel like you are less than perfect, because they say you should keep yourself chaste, holy. Like, so after you have sex, you become what? Unholy. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So yeah, thanks for opening this space, and I'm done ranting.
Nice one. Yeah, that purity culture is really fucked up. And for me, purity culture is something that it was really targeted towards women, because I remember then, like, there was this, I remember the first time in biology where we were exposed to the female anatomy, and we knew of the word hymen. Hymen, is your hymen still intact? And that's how we now knew that, okay, if there's any form of penetration, that's the hymen we tear, and there's now blood, and that is something all this old Yoruba culture then, that they'll put white bedsheet after the marriage to consummate the marriage, and if there's no blood on the bed, it means the lady is not a virgin. The whole purity culture, whether it was Christianity or even the Yoruba culture that I know, was just targeted towards women. Like, how do they test virginity for guys? It's only you and your dick that knows you are a virgin or not. So purity culture is another tool of oppression of women, and it also affects men, just like Adetunde has shared, which thank God they're not too far. I know listen to purity culture. What is that? Just say thank God. I get problem. Anyway. So that's
Hello.
All right. So anybody else wants to go? If nobody else, we'll wrap up. Anyone in the audience? Anybody? Nobody else? We have been here for an hour plus. So
okay. So before we round up, I just wanted to say something. So this is the Free Thinkers Hangout.
Yes.
You have been listening to the Ranting Atheist, and I think you guys should check out his podcast because it's pretty great. So I don't know how they will get your podcast, but check it on Apple,
the Ranting
Spotify,
Atheist podcast, yeah. Google, Deezer,
yeah, it's pretty nice. And follow the club, follow our interesting mods, and we'll be having, I think I want to have a room on Saturday. I don't know if I'll be free, but it's about favorite Bible stories or favorite Quran stories. I don't know, just light-hearted gist. I want people to come and bash Christianity some more. So yeah, that's all I'm about here. So,
nice one.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ademola just came up to the stage now, so you're welcome, Ademola. Would you like to contribute anything?
Thank you. Sure.
Good evening. Please, volume small. We can't hear you well. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I said, good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Yeah, the something caught my attention just now about what someone said about him being free even while he was a kid.
No, we can't hear you.
The volume has dropped again, no?
I said something. Sorry. I'm actually using hands-free.
Okay, maybe go.
I hope you can hear me now.
Okay, it's better now.
Okay. Sorry for that. So something caught my attention after someone said something about exploring sexuality, and it's caught my attention in the sense that the guy said he was able to explore sexuality even while he was still Christian and he was young. So I'm really curious. I would like for him to speak more on that aspect, because I always thought that being religious or being inclined in a religious pattern, it is hard for you to explore your sexuality. So it really baffles me for him to say, or for him to though it's not as if I'm disagreeing with him, or it's not as if I'm saying is lying, but it's a surprise to me, because I've always felt it's almost impossible to to explore sexuality when you are religious, like, because the rules of being religious is almost 100% against it. So I'd like for him to maybe expand on that. I'm just curious. I just want to hear him expand a little bit on that. And it's really fun listening to you guys. I've been listening all along. I mean, for the past month, maybe on and off. I've not been stable, but I've been listening to you guys, and it's chilling listening to you guys.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So who was the person? Is it Tumbi or Tony?
I didn't really get. I'm actually on hands free, so my phone is not actually with me. So I could.
Yeah, he has left the room now. It was.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me try and answer it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Let me try and answer it from my own perspective. Basically, I'm a conjina bastard. Conjina ba. I don't know.
No. It's about him. He gave a story about him being young, like watching the Aladdin movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
I said him being young and was watching the Aladdin movie and stuff like that. So, but what got my attention was the part where he said he was free to explore. Usually, me as a person, I think I got. I've always had the notion of being homophobic while I was religious. That was, I think, 2013, 2012. I was skeptical then, but I always had the notion that being religious is like you can't be. You have to be homophobic for you to be like, it goes hand in hand. You get me? So it breaks a line of pattern for me. It breaks a line of thoughts for me. So I'm actually interested in listening to his story on that. So that's why.
Okay.
Oh, okay, Ademola. So, I think I don't know why you're talking about homophobic, because I don't know if you remember the cartoon. It's Aladdin and Jasmine. Aladdin didn't kiss Jafar.
No, so it was sorry about the homophobic stuff. Being free
okay, just meant exploring sexuality while being.
Sorry about using the word. It's just the word I clicked.
Oh, okay, just a slip of tongue. Okay,
yeah,
okay. Exactly. So it's the same way sexuality has spectrums. Even religiosity, I think, has spectrums. So let me give you a bit of my background. I've had a background of multiple faiths. So my dad is Muslim, my mom is Christian, and they were from Lagos. And there are guys that they are neither, and they are family members. So they're not so much idolatry, but I was from a very young age exposed to some free thinkers. That's what they used to call themselves then.
Okay, I get it now. I see the reason why it's like that.
So the background wasn't really strict religious. I mean, I used to go to church.
I see why now.
Okay, so great to clear that up for you, man.
Right. Nice one, Demola. Thank you for the question, and Tumbi, thanks for clearing up. So everybody, follow everybody that is on the stage, in the audience. We are finally done for today. Thank you everybody for showing up. Hopefully we'll do this next week again. Another topic, another matter. Just like Adetunji Saturday, hopefully he will create that room. Free Thinkers Hangouts. We need to do more of this. So thank everybody for coming, and we'll end the room in a few seconds. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for your patience for getting to this point. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't. Join the Free Thinkers Hangout on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is available on Android now, so not be only Apple people. Sure you get. So have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next one.